Some people think that cleaning ladies don't have daughters, they have burdens, and that poor kids are born already needing to apologize for existing. But that day, in that rich kids' school, someone learned that humility can't be swept away with a broom, and that a mother's heart can tear down walls no amount of dirty money ever could. If you're one of those who loves a good story, hit that like and subscribe button now. Otherwise, you'll miss the rest of this tale. It was a freezing morning, the kind of cold that bites your bones and brings tears to even the toughest. The gates of St. Dominique's School opened precisely at 6:45 a.m. with the elegant creak of something expensive, like it had been rehearsed. A stiff-suited security guard gave a dry good morning, the kind the mouth says but the eyes deny, and that's when she walked in. Mrs. Yvonette, 48 years old, faded cleaning uniform, hair tied in a tired bun, and her hands, oh, her hands. They looked like sandpaper from so many chemicals, but her gaze was steady like a stone in the middle of a river, battered but unshaken. Behind her, with backpacks bigger than their backs, came her daughters, Laura, 9, and Mariah, 12. "Girls, keep your heads up, all right? School is a place to learn, not to feel ashamed." They didn't reply. They just gripped their mother's hands tighter like they knew the day was going to hurt. And it did. "Hey, there's a maid bringing kids in here," shouted a blonde woman in heels on her phone. The security guard approached Yvonette. "Ma'am, you can't come in through here. This gate is for parents only." She looked to the side and saw another dad arriving, on a motorcycle, sweaty, with his son's backpack on his shoulders. He walked straight in. "What about him?" she asked, without raising her voice. "He's a delivery guy. He won't be long." "You will." Laura squinted, pretending not to see. Mariah acted like it wasn't about her. Yvonette took a deep breath, swallowed her pride, and turned around with her daughters. At the other gate, the back one, there was no red carpet, no welcoming smiles, just a rusty gate and the strong smell of bleach. "Here we go, cleaning gate. Now you're in the right place," said the same guard, who had circled around faster than bad news. Mariah cried without a sound. Laura pretended it was just allergies. Yvonette, she simply lowered her gaze, knowing she'd have to swallow much more before lunch. But life, my friend, life was just getting started with this chapter. That very morning, a school board meeting was taking place, and one of the most unexpected names appeared on the attendance sheet. Augusto Brandão, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the country, a widower, discreet, owner of half the city's luxury buildings, and the major investor in St. Dominique's School itself. But what nobody knew yet was that he was about to walk out of that meeting straight into a reunion with the past. A reunion that would change the future of 3 women who, until then, were invisible. And it all started with a note, a small, crumpled note, stained with lunch sauce, that had fallen on the cafeteria floor and was accidentally swept under the teacher's lounge door. Inside, someone read it, and what was written wasn't just a request, it was a scream, a cry for help that the millionaire himself would make sure to answer, with something no one in that school would ever forget, not even me. Some things we write with a pencil, but destiny underlines with a hot iron, and that little crumpled note looked like just another scribble from a hungry child, but what it held was pure dynamite, waiting for the right spark to blow open secrets no one had the courage to say out loud. The note fell out of Laura's lunchbox. In truth, it had been there for days. She kept it hidden, folded between her napkin and her egg sandwich. Every day she thought of handing it in, but courage was always missing, or shame was too much. That day, in the rush of snack time, where rich kids throw away half their food and poor kids count grains of rice, the note slipped out and landed under the cafeteria table. One of the janitors, not seeing it, swept it under the door of the teacher's lounge. Destiny's irony, or God's hand, who knows? Hours later, coordinator Natalia walked in with her high heels, the kind worn by someone who's never cleaned their own bathroom, and spotted the paper. She was about to throw it away, but something, maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, made her open it. What she read froze her face for 3 seconds, 3 long seconds of silence before she picked up the intercom. "Mrs. Yvonette, please come to the coordination office immediately." Yvonette, who was scrubbing the boys' bathroom floor with cold water, wiped her hands on her uniform and went. She entered slowly. She knew the smell of bleach wasn't welcome in that room of French perfume. Natalia stood with crossed arms, holding the note like it was a piece of evidence. "Did you know about this?" she asked bluntly. Yvonette read it and trembled. It was Laura's handwriting, but the content seemed to come straight from Mariah's heart. "Auntie, my mom is a cleaning lady here. We pretend not to be her daughter so we won't get picked on, but it hurts. I wish she were invisible only when she's being humiliated, and not when we really need her. Can you help us get out of here?" Yvonette deflated. The tears didn't fall, but her heart, that had been on the floor for a long time. "I'm sorry. I never wanted them to be ashamed of me. This isn't about shame, Mrs. Yvonette. It's about what's being done to them." For the first time, Natalia dropped her superior tone. She sat down and explained, "There are mothers here demanding that your daughters be removed from the VIP girls group. They say your daughters contaminate the environment." Silence. Yvonette wanted to vanish, or scream, or both, but it was Natalia who continued, "The school needs to act. And I decided to show this note to someone who can do more than we can." "Who?" Natalia took a deep breath. "Augusto Brandão, Mr. Brandão, school investor. He asked to be informed of vulnerability cases, and I thought this was a good place to start." Yvonette's eyes widened. "What does he have to do with this?" The coordinator gave a mysterious half-smile. "More than you imagine." And that same afternoon, an envelope was delivered to Augusto's office building. Inside was the note and a photo that made him stop mid-bite at dinner, stare into space, and whisper a name no one had heard in years. Luciana. Was it the name of the girl's mother? No, it was the name of the woman he had loved and lost years ago. And according to destiny, she may have left behind more than just memories, something that now might be sweeping the past out of the closet and shaking everyone's future. But what was it? And why couldn't he take his eyes off those 2 girls in the photo? They say the past is no place to live, but they also say that sometimes it comes back without knocking, breaking down doors and pulling at your soul. When Augusto Brandão opened that envelope, he didn't just see 2 girls with backpacks. He saw 2 ghosts, 2 faces so familiar that his heart stumbled in his chest, as if it had recognized its own blood. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from memory. A memory old, dormant, but never erased. He slowly sat in the leather chair of his office. Dinner cooled on the plate, wine trembled in the glass, and he stared at that photo as if it could speak. Mariah, Laura, he whispered the names written on the back. But what truly chilled him was what came with the photo. The note, the same note, written with shaky letters and a torn heart that could have been penned by the soul of a woman he once knew so well. "My mom is a cleaning lady here." Augusto closed his eyes, and there, sitting in the silence of his empire, he remembered Luciana. Luciana with curly hair and a wide smile. Luciana with a firm voice and warm hugs. Luciana, the only woman he had ever truly loved. They had met nearly 13 years ago on a trip no one believed he'd make, volunteering in a community project out of sheer stubbornness after a brutal fight with his father. He claimed he wanted to see the other side of the coin, even though he was heir to the whole vault. Luciana was a volunteer teacher, organized, idealistic, and radiant like the sunrise. 3 months together, 3 months that turned into nights, into kisses, into promises. But Augusto was a coward. When his father fell ill, he rushed back to take over the family business and left Luciana behind. No letter, no goodbye. "I'll come back," he had said. He never did. Until 6 months later, he heard from an acquaintance that she had moved away and was expecting a child. He wanted to find her, but then his father died. The world turned into chaos. Meetings, inheritances, obligations, and guilt became memory. Until that note, until that photo, because there, in the face of the older girl, was a feature. The same furrow Luciana had between her eyebrows when she got angry. Augusto stood up, shaking. He went to the library, pulled out an old album with the few photos he had from that time, opened it, and there she was, Luciana, pregnant, smiling in a yellow dress. Now he was certain that girl in the photo could be his daughter, or rather, daughters. Two faces, two names, two pasts, stitched quietly by the hands of fate. Augusto sat again, and for the first time in years, he cried. But it wasn't sadness, it was fear. Fear that he had lost everything again. Fear that it might be too late. The next morning, he personally called the school's head office. "I want a meeting with the employee Ivonette and her daughters. Mr. Brandon, Mrs. Ivonette is just a cleaner. From today on, no one in this school is just anything." Silence on the other end. Augusto hung up, looked once more at the photo and whispered, "Luciana, if you can still hear me, give me one more chance. Just one more." What he didn't know is that the past held even more secrets. And that Ivonette wasn't just a cleaner. She was the keeper of a story that could change everything. A story that began with a birth and ended with a promise unfulfilled. But that, I'll tell you next. Some silences scream louder than 1,000 voices. And what Mrs. Ivonette carried wasn't a secret, it was a promise. One made with trembling hands and a heart begging not to fail. The next morning, while scrubbing the school's courtyard as the sun barely peeked over the horizon, Ivonette was called back to the coordination office. But this time, it wasn't Natalia waiting. It was him, Augusto Brandon, tailored suit, tired eyes, and in his hands, the photo and the note. She froze at the doorway. "Mrs. Ivonette, no need to hold your breath. I just want to talk." She wiped her hands on her uniform, as if that could erase the smell of disinfectant, and stepped in cautiously, like someone walking across old landmines. Augusto looked at her with a mixture of confusion and recognition. "Do you know a woman named Luciana?" Silence. Ivonette took a deep breath. That name seemed to pull the air straight from the past. "I knew her. More than knew her. I helped her give birth." Augusto felt a chill run down his spine. "She had a daughter." "She had two." He staggered, grabbing the chair for support. His eyes welled up. "Are they—" "No, they're not your daughters by blood." Augusto looked up, hope falling off his face. "But they are the daughters of the woman you destroyed when you left." The words hit like a slap from a soaked hand. Augusto lowered his head. "She died in childbirth," Ivonette continued. "Alone, in a public hospital. No health insurance, no family. Just me, her best friend, her only one." He closed his eyes, breathing heavily. "What about her parents?" "Dead, bus accident, 2 months before you abandoned everything." Augusto swallowed hard. The lump in his throat felt like a rock. "And the girls? They stayed with me. The judge gave me provisional custody, then permanent. I promised Luciana that night, as she faded on the gurney, that I'd take care of them, that I wouldn't let anyone hurt them, that they'd study, grow, become everything their mother dreamed of. And you, cleaning floors, raising 2 children that aren't yours. Why?" Ivonette finally met his eyes. "Because a mother isn't the one who gives birth. She's the one who stays, who holds the fever, who carries you, who listens to you cry even when she has no idea what to do, but stays." "I stayed." Augusto sat in silence, the heaviest silence of his life. "And now you show up, with money, a fancy suit, thinking a sad look can fix everything?" She stood up. "The girls don't know. I never told them who you were, and I won't, not yet. But they deserve to know." "Deserve? What they deserve is a life without more broken promises." Augusto looked down. She was already at the door when she paused. "If you want to help, then help, but don't try to buy forgiveness." And she walked out. Silence remained, a silence full of memories and regret. Augusto picked up the photo again, looked into Mariah's eyes, and understood. He wasn't their father by blood, but maybe he could be something else, something his money had never been, present, but he had no idea what was coming, because while he stared at the past, a rich student was plotting a plan to humiliate Laura and Mariah in front of the entire school. And this time, not even Ivonette's strength could stop the disaster. Human beings have a twisted talent for disguising cruelty as jokes, and spoiled kids, when they don't learn limits, grow into cruel adults. But before that, they learn how to hurt with a smile. The following week, the entire school buzzed about one thing: Isabella Cavalcanti's party. Only child of a businessman who could sell things people hadn't even thought of wanting yet. Isabella was the kind of girl who didn't ask for attention, she demanded it. Rich kid, with a French braid in her uniform, a soft voice, and the venomous gaze of a scorpion. She was turning 13, and the theme of the party, Princess Ball. But in that school, not every girl was treated like a princess. While most girls received invitations in envelopes covered in golden glitter, Laura and Mariah didn't expect to be invited. They didn't even consider it. They had already learned not to get disappointed by the obvious. But then came the surprise. During recess, Isabella walked over with 2 pink envelopes. She handed them to Laura and Mariah, smiling as if offering flowers. "You're invited too, okay? I really want you to come. It's for all the girls in class." The sisters exchanged looks. Laura clutched the envelope to her chest, smiling. Mariah, older and more hardened, was skeptical. "Are you sure this isn't a joke?" "Of course not. I'm trying to be nicer. Everyone deserves a Princess Day, right?" Isabella said, sweetness dripping with poison. They thanked her and spent the rest of the day somewhere between dreaming and doubting. That night, Ivonette found the invitations in their backpacks. She read, reread. Something felt off. "Girls, who gave you this?" "Isabella," Laura replied, her eyes glowing. "She said she wants everyone at her party. It's going to be in a luxury hall. And she wants us there." Ivonette sighed. She knew something wasn't right, felt it in her chest like a mother's premonition, but how could she deny the girls a chance to feel included? She couldn't afford new dresses, so she sewed 2 herself from donated fabric at church. 1 light blue, 1 lilac. Simple but beautiful, made with love and thread of faith. Saturday afternoon the girls were ready. Ivonette did their hair, sprayed on some cheap but sweet perfume, and ordered a rideshare car. She kissed each one, holding back her fear behind a forced smile. "If anyone makes you feel small, remember you're big, right here." She tapped her heart. "And real princesses don't live in castles. They live in courage." They smiled, got in the car. The hall was dazzling. Red carpet, crystal lights, waiters serving juice in glasses, and the girls arrived wide-eyed, souls floating, but it only took 15 minutes for it all to fall apart. While they danced shyly near the candy table, the main microphone turned on. Isabella stepped onto a small stage, covered in satin. "Attention, everyone! Before the waltz, we have a special parade of the real princesses and their helpers." Laughter. "Laura and Mariah, come up here, please." They stepped up, confused. Applause for the princesses of cleaning," Isabella shouted, laughing loudly. On the screen behind them appeared photos, secret photos, taken in the school courtyard. They showed Ivonette kneeling, scrubbing floors, Mariah sweeping a hallway the year before, helping her mom during vacation, Laura pushing a cleaning cart on a day she had been playing Mommy's Little Cleaner. The hall erupted in laughter. "They're the detergent duchesses," a boy mocked. Someone threw confetti. "But the kind that cuts." And in that moment, Mariah stepped off the stage with a burning face. Laura followed, trying not to cry. Then the door opened, and a man walked in. Augusto Brandão. No one understood. He walked straight to the stage, took the microphone from Isabella's hand, and said, his voice calm, but sharp as a blade, "I just wanted to see for myself how a generation of absent parents creates a generation of cruel children." Silence. "What happened here is a crime, public humiliation, and it will be treated as such." Isabella began to shake. "And as for these two girls, I have an announcement to make." Everyone held their breath. Was Augusto going to claim paternity? Adopt them? Expel Isabella? What he did was even more unexpected. Sometimes the whole world goes silent just to hear a single truth scream in the middle of the room. And that's exactly what happened when Augusto Brandão took the microphone at that party. No one dared breathe. The waiters froze with trays still raised. The wealthy parents tried to mask their discomfort with nervous smiles. And Isabella didn't know whether to step off the stage or disappear, along with whatever dignity she thought she still had. Augusto turned to the girls. Laura trembled, her lilac dress stained with whipped cream someone had thrown. Mariah held back tears, fists clenched, like she wanted to run or explode. Augusto knelt in front of them. "I'm sorry, not for what others did, but for what I didn't do." They looked at each other, confused. "I'm sorry for taking so long, for not being here sooner, for not protecting you when it was my responsibility." Mariah stepped back. We don't even know you." He smiled, eyes wet. "But I knew your mother, and the woman who raised you is one of the noblest people I've ever met." The people in the crowd began to whisper. The party's atmosphere collapsed like a sandcastle in a storm. Augusto stood. "Now listen up, all of you." He pointed to Laura and Mariah. "These girls are not fairy tale princesses. They are real-life warriors. And from today on, they are my personal protégés. I will fund their education through to their final diploma. That includes transportation, tutoring, exchange programs, university, everything." Gasps from the audience. "And if anyone here has a problem with that, you're welcome to leave the same way you came in. Because this school now has a new moral direction." Isabella tried to speak. "This is absurd. My dad pays the highest tuition here." Augusto turned slowly. "And I am the largest investor in this institution. Your father may pay for the roof, but I own the house." Dead silence. Augusto took a deep breath and walked toward the exit. But before leaving, he paused beside Mariah and Laura. "You don't have to call me Dad or Uncle, just someone who should have shown up sooner and won't leave again." And he walked out, leaving behind a hall full of confused stares, people choking on their pride, and two girls trying to figure out if everything that just happened was a dream or some strange punishment. On the ride home, they stayed quiet. But it wasn't sadness. It was processing, the kind the heart does when it's trying to catch up with what just happened. At home, Ivonette stood at the door, tired eyes and apron still stained. "So, girls, did everything go okay?" Laura ran up and hugged her mother. She cried into her chest like she was handing back her fear and reclaiming her safe place. Mariah came right after, but stayed silent. Ivonette noticed. "Sweetie, what happened?" She simply replied, "Life changed. I'm just trying to believe it's real." That night, Ivonette stood by the window while the girls slept, and right there, she decided it was time to tell the truth. But before that, she needed to be sure Augusto was serious, that he was more than just pretty words and public gestures. And on Monday, when she arrived at work, she got her answer. Because instead of her grey uniform, there was an envelope with a new badge, and a letter, handwritten, signed by him. But what it said will surprise you. Some letters don't come by mail. They come by destiny. And when Ivonette opened that envelope, even before reading it, her heart was already on its knees. Her hands trembled. Her eyes didn't know whether to face the new badge or run from the possibility of yet another disappointment. At the top of the page, written in elegant handwriting, the kind that learns on real paper, not on screens, it read, "To Mrs. Ivonette de Souza, with gratitude, respect, and an old debt, Augusto Brandão." She took a deep breath and read, "Mrs. Ivonette, you are not a cleaning lady. You are a foundation, a pillar, a structure, the one thing that cannot crumble in an entire building. While many were polishing the floors of their own vanity, you were scrubbing the souls of two girls with your calloused hands. And I, who should have been a father, was merely an absence. Now I don't want to fix it, but start again. From today on, you will assume the role of General Supervisor of Infrastructure for the Brando Institute, which we will inaugurate in the annex building beside the school. A support center for low-income families offering courses, tutoring, psychological and legal assistance. It comes with a fair salary, a team under your leadership, and full autonomy. The girls will have full scholarships for life, and whatever else they need, just tell me. I'm not trying to pay a debt. I'm trying to be worthy of having known Luciana. With respect, Augusto. Ivonette sat down. Slowly, the letter fell into her lap, and she cried. But it wasn't sadness. It was relief. A fulfilled promise. Pride restored. That morning, she didn't put on her apron. She wore a simple outfit, freshly pressed the night before, closed-toe shoes, and her hair pulled back the same way, but with a dab of lipstick, small, but full of courage. She entered the school through the front door, the same one she was once denied. Now, it opened with a smile. The receptionist straightened up, visibly awkward. "Good morning, Mrs. Ivonette." "Good morning, dear," she replied calmly, like someone who no longer needed to shout to be heard. In the hallway, she saw Laura running toward her. "Mom, now everyone wants to be our friend," she smiled. "The world didn't change, sweetheart. Just the camera angle. Stay sharp." Mariah followed close behind. "Is Augusto coming today?" "I don't know, but if he does, he'll find me standing tall, not kneeling on the floor." That same day, the school principal called a meeting with the parents. Nervously, she explained that the Brando Institute would be implemented as part of the school's new educational project. Some frowned, a few left, but most stayed. And Isabella? She was transferred. Her parents said they needed a more exclusive environment. Laura cried the first day without her in class, not from sadness, from relief. That afternoon when she got home, she found an envelope in her backpack. Inside, a note from coordinator Natalia. "Mrs. Ivonette, thank you for staying. I talk a lot about meritocracy, but you taught me what truly means to deserve. Signed, someone still learning to be human." That night, Ivonette baked a cake. Simple. Cornmeal with fennel, but it tasted like victory. And while the girls slept, she stood by the window, looking at the sky. Maybe thinking of Luciana, maybe asking forgiveness for taking so long to trust in destiny. But destiny still had one final trick, because Augusto was about to do something no one expected, not even her. And that will catch you by surprise. There are words that time buries, but the heart digs up when you least expect it. Despite all the public gestures, Augusto Brandon still couldn't sleep in peace. Not the new institute, not the scholarships, not Ivonette's new position could fill the hole he himself had dug 13 years ago. Luciana still haunted him, not as a ghost but as a memory with a face, a scent and a voice. And that week, while organizing the last files of the foundation, he made one request to his personal assistant. "Go to my old office. There's a box in the closet with a red ribbon. Don't open it, just bring it." The assistant brought it the same day. Augusto shut the door, sat in his chair, opened the box. Inside, newspaper clippings from the community project where he met Luciana, an old T-shirt with the project's name, a little beaded bracelet, and at the bottom, a letter, in her handwriting, shaky but alive, written on notebook paper, dated 4 days before the birth. Augusto held his breath and read, "If this letter ever finds you, Augusto, it won't be because I forgave you. It'll be because I got tired of holding on to the hurt. I wanted to wait for you. I swear I did. But I waited so long, time ran me over. I'm about to have my daughters. Yes, daughters. 2 twins. Irony of life, or punishment for the love I had for you. But I'm not writing out of pity nor anger. I write to say that even absent, you were part of this. Because it was thinking about what you wouldn't be that I tried to be everything. I left them with Ivonette, my most loyal friend, the only one who never left me. If by any chance you ever meet my girls, don't say you loved me. Prove it, because real love is what remains. Luciana." Augusto read the entire letter with eyes full of tears. He didn't cry, he poured. He held the paper like a sacred relic, and in that moment, he understood everything he'd done still wasn't enough, because the only way to honor Luciana wasn't by paying debts, it was by being present. The next morning he went to the school, but not to talk to Ivonette, nor to the girls. He went straight to the principal's office and requested something few understood. "I want Laura and Mariah to carry my last name." "Excuse me, you want to adopt them?" "Not legally, I don't want to take anyone's place, but I want to offer them the choice. If they want to use the name Brando, they can. If not, that's okay. And their adoptive mother, Mrs. Ivonette, already has my respect. Now she deserves my trust." He left the school and went personally to their home, knocked on the simple wooden door. Ivonette answered. He didn't know if I was coming as a friend or an intruder. "You came as both," she replied, serious. "I need to show you something." He handed her the letter. She recognized the handwriting immediately and cried. "I saw her writing this, thought she tore it up. She kept it, and now it reached me. Late, but it did." Ivonette read it again, stayed silent for minutes, then looked him in the eye. "What do you want now, Augusto? To be part of their lives, without taking your place, without invading your space. But if they want, I'd like them to carry my name too, as a symbol, as a bridge." She took a deep breath. "Go talk to them." In their room, Laura and Mariah were doing homework. Augusto entered quietly. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" They nodded. He sat on the floor in front of them. "I don't know if you understand what it means to give someone your name, but it's like offering the most intimate thing you have, your legacy." Like being family?" Laura asked. "Exactly, but without pressure. Only if you want." Mariah was serious. "And if we don't want to? You're still everything to me. That doesn't change." The two looked at each other. Mariah squinted, as if reading his soul. Laura smiled shyly. "I want to, but can I have 2 last names?" Augusto chuckled. "Of course. You can have whatever you want." Mariah took longer. She thought, and answered, "I want to too, but not now. I want to see if you really stay." He swallowed hard. "Fair." As he left their home, Augusto felt, for the first time, that Luciana might finally forgive him. But there was still one thing left, one final tribute, something public, symbolic, definitive. But before that, something very serious was about to happen at the school, something that would put the girls' names at risk. And Augusto would have to choose between protecting them in silence or facing the world with them at his side. The world turns, and sometimes it turns with a vengeance. Just when Augusto thought he could finally breathe in peace, a storm rolled in. One of those you never see coming. You just feel the dust hit your eyes. It happened on a random Tuesday. Clear skies, science class, snack line. Laura and Mariah were eating cheese bread and quietly chatting about their essay assignment when a wave of whispers swept through the courtyard. "Did you see it in the parents' group? It's everywhere now. My dad even called the school." Mariah raised an eyebrow. She turned and saw 2 boys pointing at her. "What is it?" One of them smirked. "Didn't know cleaning was a family heirloom now." Laura froze, and then came the bombshell. Someone had leaked internal school documents, confidential information, including the full details of Laura and Mariah's scholarship. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst was the title of the message making the rounds in the parents' WhatsApp groups. "The cleaning ladies' daughters get everything for free and still want a rich man's last name." The message claimed the girls were receiving unfair advantages, that they were emotionally manipulating people for benefits. It claimed children from humble backgrounds shouldn't study alongside the elite's kids because it causes identity confusion. And at the end, the sentence that cut the deepest: if they want free school, they should study where the floors match their shoes. The bomb exploded. The groups went wild. Parents demanded explanations. The principal called an emergency meeting. When Augusto heard about it, he left a major business meeting mid-sentence and went straight to the school. But instead of marching into the principal's office, instead of grabbing the microphone, instead of giving a speech. Do you know what he did? He went to the courtyard, found Laura and Mariah sitting on a stone bench, heads down, sat between them. "I read it," he said plainly. They said nothing. Laura wiped her face with her sleeve. Mariah was silent. "You want me to say something? Go to war for you. Expel half the school with one call." The girls remained quiet. "Because I can. With one phone call. But I came to ask, what do you want me to do?" Mariah lifted her eyes, steady, even with a tear at the edge. "I want us to stay, not change schools, not be afraid to hold our heads up. I want no one to defend me just because I'm poor. I want them to defend me because I'm a good student." Augusto smiled. "That's the answer I needed." And he stayed there with them. No audience, no theatrics. At the end of the day, he went to the principal. "Let everything play out, but announce an essay contest. Topic, what is dignity? Mr. Brando, with all due respect, this isn't the right time to—" "It's exactly the right time." And so it was done. The whole school participated. Hundreds of essays. But what no one knew was that the judges received the texts with no names. On the day of the announcement, the parents were invited for a presentation. Full auditorium, dimmed lights, principal on stage. "Good afternoon. Today we'll award the best essay in our school, a text that touched the committee with its strength, maturity, and sensitivity. A text that defines with precision what dignity means." Dramatic pause. "The winner is Laura de Souza Brandão." Silence, whispers, then applause. First soft, then loud, sincere. Laura climbed the stage. Small steps, but standing tall. She received her certificate and read her essay aloud. "Dignity is when no one looks at you by your uniform. It's when your mom cleans floors and you still feel on top. Dignity is knowing who you are, even when others say you don't belong. It's when someone offers you a last name, but you know the most beautiful name is still the one of the woman who raised you with soap, prayer, and courage. Dignity is loving without hiding." Tears ran down faces that had never really looked at her before. Augusto, in the back of the auditorium, stood and applauded. Ivonette couldn't hold back her sobs. And Mariah, standing beside her sister, held her hand tightly, saying without words, "You won for both of us." The school was never the same again. Neither were Laura, or Mariah, or Augusto. But there was still one thing missing, one final tribute, a symbol, and it would come, at the grand opening of the new building, with a name on the plaque that no one saw coming. Some people spend their lives begging for recognition. Others just hope not to be forgotten. But Luciana never asked for either. She only wanted her daughters to be seen with the same respect as any rich child, and it was for her, and everything she represented, that her name ended up somewhere no one expected, on stone. The inauguration of the new Brando Institute building was meant to be a discreet event, just the way Augusto preferred. But it's hard to keep an entire school away when word spreads like wildfire. There's going to be a surprise tribute, and it has something to do with the cleaning lady's daughters. On Saturday morning, Ivonette and her daughters arrived hand in hand. Simple dresses, wide eyes, careful steps. Augusto was already waiting at the entrance. "Good morning, ladies," he said gently. Ivonette raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Brando, what are you up to now?" He just pointed. At the center of the entrance, a plaque stood covered by a blue cloth. Around it, directors, teachers, a few journalists, and many students. "Before I reveal this," Augusto began, taking the microphone, "I just want to say one thing. This school teaches math, Portuguese, even French, but until recently, it didn't teach humanity." Shifting in seats, glances exchanged. "I'm not here to save anyone. I'm here because I was saved, by a memory, by a promise, and by 3 women who taught me more than any book ever could." He looked at Ivonette. "Some people think raising a child is about blood, but you showed me it's about presence, about courage, about love." She lowered her eyes, fighting back tears. Augusto pulled the cloth, and there it was, in golden letters, Luciana de Souza Institute. Education is the name of the future. A silence swept through the courtyard like a strong wind. And then, applause. Loud, true. Applause that didn't just stir the air, it shook the entire past. Laura and Mariah stood frozen, staring at the name of the mother they never got to know, but who had just been made eternal. Yvonette trembled. Why? Why her name, Augusto? He took a deep breath. Because it all started with her. Because she dreamed of this future, even knowing she wouldn't be here. Because she believed her daughters would change the world. Augusto took Yvonette's hand. Adieu, and because you made that dream live on, with rags, with pain, with prayer, but you never gave up. The press took photos. The students listened. The teachers cried. But Augusto didn't care about the headlines. He only looked at the girls. Laura, Mariah, this name here doesn't just belong to your biological mother. It belongs to you. And now, it belongs to the world. The two hugged the plaque as if they were hugging a memory. Yvonette stepped forward, touched the letters with steady fingers, and whispered, "You did it, my friend, and I kept my promise." As they left, someone asked Augusto, "Will you use this moment to promote the Brando Group?" He didn't even blink. Some names sell, others transform. I chose the latter, and walked away hand in hand with the girls. That night, Yvonette wrote in an old notebook she kept in her nightstand. Today, her name became stone, but her love had been a monument for a long time. And she closed the notebook with a sigh. But the story wasn't over yet, because a few days later, an anonymous letter arrived at the school. Inside, something that would change everything again, and place Yvonette in front of an impossible choice. Some letters don't arrive to inform, they arrive to stir the soul. And this one, in a brown envelope, on yellowed paper with shaky handwriting, came with no return address, but carrying the scent of a past that had never fully rested. Coordinator Natalia found it in the school's mailbox, hidden among flyers and overdue bills. At first glance, she thought it was just another scholarship request, but when she opened it, her stomach turned. She read it, reread it, and immediately called Yvonette. Now the general supervisor of the Brando Institute, Yvonette entered the office with her usual steady posture. "What is it, Natalia?" The woman handed her the letter, didn't say a word. Yvonette read slowly. With every line, her expression shifted. Her chin trembled, her palms grew sweaty, and her eyes filled with memories she thought she'd buried. "Mrs. Yvonette, my name is Dalvina. I'm Luciana's sister. I know you raised the girls. I know what you've done, and I'm grateful. But I need to tell you a truth. Luciana didn't die in childbirth. She survived. For 2 years, she lived in hiding, afraid. She said if the girl's father found out, he might try to take them from her. That fear consumed her. You didn't know because she disappeared. I only found out she had died when I saw the news about the institute on TV. I saw the girls, and I decided to write. Before I pass, I'm ill. I felt the truth deserved to come out. I'm sorry for keeping it, but now it's in your hands." Yvonette finished reading with her breath ragged. She didn't die in childbirth." Natalia shook her head, silent. The floor beneath Yvonette seemed to sway. 2 years. 2 years of Luciana alive, while she mourned a death that never happened. She didn't trust me. Why didn't she come to me? The coordinator tried to offer something, but no words came. Yvonette walked out like she was lost in a never-ending corridor. The school spun around her. The walls seemed to press in. The story she had told herself for 13 years had just crumbled. That night at home, she sat at the table, staring at her plate without touching it. The girls noticed. "Mom, are you okay?" Mariah asked. She forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just tired." But it wasn't exhaustion, it was disorientation. In the dark, she wrote 3 long pages in her old notebook. "Luciana, why didn't you come back? Why did you let me believe you were gone? I cried over a funeral that never happened. I raised your daughters in the shadow of your absence. I held tight to the promise I made on that cold hospital bed. But now I wonder, did I make the right promise? Did I take something that was never mine to keep? The next day, she went to Augusto, told him everything about the letter. He sat in shock. Luciana, alive for 2 years. Yes, and no one knew. Not me, not you. Augusto ran a hand through his hair. She was afraid of me? She thought you might take the girls from her. Silence. Augusto swallowed hard. I would never have done that. She didn't know that, and now, maybe I don't either. What do you mean? She looked him in the eye. What if her sister wants to claim the girls now? The air in the room turned thick. But you have legal custody and a wounded conscience. They both knew what that meant. A court battle could begin. A nightmare. But before anyone could act, another letter arrived. This time from the hospital, signed by a retired nurse. It confirmed Luciana had been admitted 2 years after giving birth under a false name. She had died of a generalized infection. On her medical file, only one contact name was listed, Ivonete de Souza. But no one ever notified her. The system failed. Luciana was buried as a John Doe. Ivonete fell to her knees upon reading that. She cried as she never had before. Now she finally knew the full truth. Luciana had tried to come back, but time ran out. And she'd only found out 13 years later. But there was one more thing in the nurse's letter, an item found with Luciana's body, kept in storage all these years. A necklace with 2 small initials, L and M, Laura and Mariah, and tucked beside it, a folded note in a plastic sleeve. To my daughters, if you ever come looking for me, tell them I tried, but I couldn't. And tell Ivonete, she's the bravest woman I've ever known, not a mother by blood, but by soul. The truth hurt, but it also set her free. Ivonete hugged that note to her chest, like she was hugging Luciana. And she understood. She hadn't stolen anything. She fulfilled. But now, she had to make a choice. Tell the girls everything, or bury it forever. And that, my friend, was not an easy choice. There are truths that once they touch the heart, weigh more than stone. And now Ivonete carried 2 of them, the one that shattered her when she learned Luciana had survived, and the one that echoed like an open wound, whispering every night, "Tell them." But how do you tell 2 girls that their mother had lived without them, and died without saying goodbye? How do you explain that, for 13 years, everything you thought you knew was only a fragment of a much more painful story? Ivonete spent 3 days in silence, pretending everything was fine, smiling when the girls came home from school, asking about homework, snacks, recess. But at night, she wrote letters, one for each daughter, and one for Luciana, though she knew Luciana would never read it. On one of those nights, Mariah quietly entered her room. "Is everything okay, Mom?" "Yes, sweetie, just a lot on my mind." "Since that letter, right?" Ivonete froze. "How do you know about the letter?" "I saw the coordinator give it to you, and I saw you walk out of that room as white as a sheet. Since then, you haven't looked at me the same." Silence. Ivonete took a deep breath. "Come sit." Mariah sat at the edge of the bed. "Sweetheart, what I'm about to tell you isn't easy, but it's necessary." Laura came in next, hugging her teddy bear. "Is it a secret? I want to hear too." Ivonete closed her eyes, took both their hands. "Do you remember the story about your biological mother, that she died giving birth to you?" They both nodded, serious. "That's not exactly what happened." The room fell into a thick silence, a silence that screamed through the walls. "Your mother survived. She lived for 2 more years after you were born. But she was scared. She thought someone might take you away, that they'd separate you. So she hid, disappeared." Laura's eyes widened. Mariah sat perfectly still. "She didn't reach out to me, and I only found out now, 13 years later. She died alone, under a fake name, and the hospital never told me." "But why was she afraid of us?" Laura whispered. "She wasn't afraid of you. She was afraid of the world, of people, of losing the only thing she had left, and in the end, she lost it anyway. Mariah lowered her head. She didn't want to see us. She did, but she couldn't. She left behind a note saying she tried, and that she chose me, that she trusted me. Yvonette pulled out the necklace with the initials L and M. She kept this until the end. Laura took it in her hands. "Can I keep it?" "Of course, my love. It's yours." Mariah, quieter, asked, "Did she love us?" More than anything, but her fear was bigger than her time. The girls cried, and Yvonette cried with them. But in that embrace, there was more than pain. There was healing. The next morning, Laura wore the necklace around her neck. And in class, she told the teacher in front of everyone, "This is from my birth mother, but the one who taught me how to walk, how to read, how to pray, is my soul mother. And today, I have two moms, one in heaven and one at home." Augusto, listening from the hallway, was deeply moved. Later that day, he took the girls to the cemetery. They found Luciana's grave. It was simple, no flowers, no full name. Augusto had it changed. The new headstone read, "Luciana de Souza, mother, woman." Courage in the form of silence. Her legacy blooms every day, and those who loved her never forgot. Kneeling at the grave, Yvonette whispered, "Now you can rest. And I can too." On the way home, Mariah held her hand. "You didn't lose us, Mom. You gained us." But the story still held one final twist, because Augusto had a proposal, one that would put Yvonette at the heart of a national project. But to accept, she would have to leave the school, leave behind her stability, and face the world. Would she dare to say yes? There are crossroads that aren't made of concrete or asphalt. They're built from invisible choices, the kind we carry inside us for the rest of our lives. So when Augusto knocked on Yvonette's door, contract in hand and that unmistakable spark in his eyes, she knew this was one of those moments. "Can I come in? If it's another surprise, step in slowly," she joked, half laughing, half suspicious. He entered, pulled out a kitchen chair, and sat down like someone who already belonged there, placed the envelope on the table. "I need you to read this." Carefully, Yvonette opened it, read slowly, and by the third line, her heart stumbled. "Rooted Woman Project, National Coordinator, Yvonette de Souza." "What is this, Augusto?" "It's what you were born to do. Teach other women how to resist, how to raise, how to turn pain into strength." She laughed nervously. "But I'm just a cleaning lady." "You were, now you're a symbol. I don't have a degree. I don't know how to give speeches. I don't understand politics." "That's exactly why it has to be you, because a woman who survived with a bucket and a rag on her back understands more about social justice than half the politicians out there." She closed the envelope, crossed her arms. "This takes me out of the school, doesn't it?" "It does, but it puts you on a bigger stage. In Brasilia, in the States, the idea is to create support centers for single mothers and women in vulnerable situations. You'd lead it, train new leaders, change lives." Silence. Outside, Laura and Mariah were playing ball on the sidewalk. Yvonette watched them through the window. "And who's going to take care of them?" "You will, like you always have. And I'll take care of you." She looked at him deeply. "Augusto, this is too big. So are you. You just haven't realized it yet." She smiled with tears in her eyes. "I don't even know how to walk in heels, you know. But you know how to walk with your head high. That's worth more." That night, Yvonette didn't sleep. She paced the house in silence, looked at the girls sleeping, at the notebook of bills on the shelf, at her school badge hanging on the wall, everything she had built, everything she might lose or multiply. The next morning she asked Augusto to meet her at the institute. He was already waiting. She arrived with her hair down, for the first time in years, and her eyes full of resolve. "I'll do it, but on one condition. Name it. I want each unit of the project to be named after a forgotten woman. A Luciana, a Maria, a Teresa, because this country is full of invisible women with stories too big to die quietly." Augusto smiled. "Deal." And that's how the Rooted Woman Project was born. In less than 3 months, Yvonne's name appeared in newspapers, radio stations, and on TV shows, but she never let it get to her head. She still went to the local market, took the girls to school, baked cornmeal cake on Sundays, and in interviews, when asked about her academic background, she answered, "Graduated in cleaning, motherhood, and faith. My diploma is signed by life." Laura and Mariah became symbols too. They were invited to speak about self-esteem, resilience, legacy. At one of those events, Mariah, now a teenager, stood on stage and said, "I grew up with 2 moms, one by blood and one by soul, but it was the love of both that made me whole, and now I want to do the same for other girls." The audience gave her a standing ovation, but one day, a phone call changed everything. It came from a hospital, with news. A woman bearing striking resemblance to Luciana had been found in a clinic in the countryside. No memory, no documents. Living there for over a decade, Augusto picked up the call and felt the world spin. Could it be Luciana alive, or just another cruel twist of fate? There was only one way to find out, but what would Yvonette do if it turned out to be true? And how would the girls feel, seeing a ghost turn real again? Some reunions are hoped for with joy and received with fear. When Augusto hung up the phone with the hospital, the world seemed to shrink around him. His breath shortened. The silence grew heavy. Luciana alive? It wasn't certain, but it was possible. A woman around the same age, same blood type, similar features, found in a psychiatric hospital in the interior of Minas Gerais, admitted over a decade ago with a diagnosis of deep trauma and dissociative amnesia. No official name, no known past, just an old wristband with 2 engraved letters, LM. Augusto didn't think twice. He got in his car, drove for hours, arrived before dawn, exhausted, approached the reception desk. "I want to see her." "Sir, she's asleep. She hasn't had visitors in years. But tomorrow morning, you can see her." "I'll wait." And he did, all night, on a hard plastic chair, staring at a blank ceiling, heart pounding. At 6:45 a.m., the nurse appeared. "She's awake. Would you like to try?" Augusto followed her down the cold, echoing hallway, every step heavier than the last, and then the door opened. There she was, sitting at the edge of the bed, gazing out the window, graying hair, pale skin, distant eyes. But Gisse, it was her, Luciana. Time had left its marks, but love doesn't forget the face that memory refuses to name. "Luciana," he whispered. She turned slowly, looked at him, blank. "Do I know you?" Her voice was the same, softer now, fragile, but hers. Augusto swallowed hard. "Yes, I knew you. Do you remember your daughters?" She frowned, closed her eyes. "Daughters? I had daughters?" The world collapsed around him. He sat beside her, pulled a photo from his wallet, the same old-school picture. "These are Laura and Mariah, your daughters." Luciana stared at the photo for long minutes. Then a tear rolled down her cheek, but still no memory. "They look beautiful. They are. And strong, just like you. I don't remember them. I don't remember me." "That's okay. We can start again." Augusto called Yvonette, told her everything. She's alive, but doesn't remember anything. On the other end, silence, then a voice choked with emotion. "She left me a mission, and now she's back not knowing who her daughters are." "Yes, and I don't know if we should tell her." "You have to bring her here." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure." 2 days later, Luciana arrived in the city. Laura and Mariah were told carefully. The Institute's psychologist prepared them. Yvonette, too. But no one was truly ready. They were in the garden of the Institute when Luciana stepped out of the car. Mariah froze. Laura gripped her mother's hand. Luciana, unsure, smiled gently. "Is it them?" she asked softly. Augusto nodded. "Yes." She walked slowly, like someone stepping into someone else's dream, stopped in front of the girls, looked. I don't remember you, but there's something here." She pointed to her chest. A feeling, a warmth. Laura began to cry. Mariah simply said, "You don't have to remember. We'll remember for you." Ivonette stepped forward, took her friend's arm. "I raised them, Luciana, like they were mine, but I never stopped talking about you. Never," Luciana cried, a deep, releasing cry. "I'm sorry for not coming back, for not making it." And Mariah replied firm, "You came back in the way you could, and that's already a lot." In the days that followed, Luciana was embraced. Slowly memories began returning. Fragments, scents, names. She recognized the necklace with the initials, remembered the lullaby she sang to her belly, remembered the scent of bleach on Ivonette's apron. Augusto, nearby, didn't ask for forgiveness. He just stayed. And in that staying, something new took root. Not a traditional family, but a new kind of love, one made of reconciliation, scars, choice, and second chances. But there was still one last step to take, one final gesture that would unite them all. And it would happen on Mariah's 15th birthday, the day when past and present would finally dance to the same song. Some dances aren't just with the body, they're with the soul. A reunion disguised as a gesture, a forgiveness that unfolds in silence while the music plays and the world outside stops spinning. And that day, the hall of the Luciana de Souza Institute wasn't just set up for a party. It was set for a miracle. Mariah was turning 15, but she wanted something different. No princess gown, no DJ, no waltz with a tuxedoed teenage boy. "I want a party with the women of my life," she said. She asked for the decorations to be made of photographs, photos of Ivonette sweeping the courtyard with baby Laura in her arms, photos of a young Luciana smiling, pregnant, holding flowers from the community project, photos of first school essays, of scribbled notes, of warm embraces, and at the center of the hall, a small stage, empty for now. Augusto was there, as always, quiet, wearing a dark suit but with the same look as ever, the look of a man who knows that what matters most in life doesn't fit in safes or spreadsheets. Luciana sat next to Ivonette, now with more color in her face, more presence in her gaze, more memory in her hands. She didn't remember everything, but she remembered enough. She remembered the names of her daughters. She remembered a melody, the one she used to hum in her small home, hands on her belly, when all she had was hope. And it was to that song that the night began. The lights dimmed, the hall went silent, and a spotlight lit the stage. Mariah appeared, dressed simply, elegantly, nothing extravagant, but glowing with dignity. She took the microphone. "Today is not just my birthday, it's ours." A pause. "The birthday of our story, of our courage, of our rebuilding." Many were already in tears. "I was born from a woman who carried me in love, who fought as long as she could to protect me. Then I was raised by another woman who carried me in faith, and now I'm a daughter of every woman who's ever taught me that to be a woman is to never give up." She pointed to Ivonette, mother of soul, then to Luciana, mother of origin, and then to Augusto, father by heart, even if the blood doesn't say so. The room stood still, applause held in hearts and lungs, but she wasn't done yet. "Tonight I want to dance, not with a prince. I want to dance with my story." She stepped down from the stage, extended her hand to Luciana. "Will you dance with me, Mom?" Luciana hesitated, but stood. The music began, soft, slow. They moved gently at first, awkward, shaky, but soon they found rhythm. Then Laura joined in. Then Ivonette, the four of them in the center, dancing, crying, smiling. The audience couldn't hold back anymore. Augusto watched, understanding. This wasn't redemption. This was eternity. At the end of the song, Luciana took the microphone. For the first time, she spoke clearly, without stuttering. "I spent years without memory, but the love, it never left me. Even when I couldn't remember, something inside me knew that I had left something precious behind. And today, I've found it all. My daughters, my friend, my peace." Standing ovation. Augusto joined them, hugged all three and said, "Some families are united by paperwork, ours by forgiveness." Ivonette cupped his face. "We don't need blood. We have roots." Laura, eyes wet, finished. "And now we bloom." The end. So, what did you think of this story, huh? Leave a comment below, smash that like button to support the channel, and subscribe so you never miss another good story like this one. Until next time, from your Vovo Rico.